Hi, I'm Kim Stevens. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. California has a budget problem. The Legislative Analyst Office is predicting a gloomy outlook for next year because too much money is being spent and not enough is coming in. How much? Well, an $18 billion problem next year and $35 billion deficit the following year. The governor has some answers to right the state's financial ship. They're controversial, painful, or a perfect answer. That's for you to decide. Tonight, the group Californians United for a Responsible Budget say the perfect answer is simple: close California prisons. Each year, California pays $127,800 for every person whose address is a state prison. That's according to the Legislative Analyst Office. Multiply that by all incarcerated in our state. The most recent figure from the Public Policy Institute is 94,000 people in 2023. Pull out the calculator. The number is not only dizzying about how much of the state budget goes toward corrections, it's also no longer making sense to Governor Newsom, who's been talking about a transformation. While at San Quentin Rehabilitation Center back in March, he said the state has failed for far too long.
2/3 of folks, the senator says, coming out of the prison every single year, or at least within 3 years, violate some probation order or commit another damn crime. I mean, 2/3, and we perpetuate that system and we call that system somehow public safety oriented. Where's the public safety in that?
Rehabilitation has long been brought up as an answer to that. Help the incarcerated through rehabilitation, education, and training, and help the state budget, as Ipiani Lockhart suggests. He's a faith organizer with the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity.
The cost that it costs to incarcerate a healthy individual is well over $130,000 per year. In comparison, to house a family of four, it will cost less than $40,000 per year, right? So why is it that we continue to invest in systems that are not enriching our community, but more so harming our community?
But crime is hurting our communities, so voters said in overwhelmingly passing Proposition 36 last year, holding people accountable for their crimes.
We should be spending money on safety, on affordability, and on reducing the cost of living by getting government out of the way, not by shutting down essential services.
The governor and his large team on this prison closure plan call rehabilitation services essential, not incarceration.
Why are we almost paying $500,000 to incarcerate a senior that might be battling cancer when we could invest that money in our community to prevent people going to incarceration? More importantly, giving them the skill sets to be contributing members of our community, which will be beneficial to all of us as Californians and, more importantly, as Americans.
Governor Newsom says the state can save about $150 million every year when a prison is closed, which is part of his plan to close a $12 billion deficit. These have already been closed or deactivated in the last few years. Prisons. Now, with Californians United for a Responsible Budget calling for more prison closures in the state of California because of significant budget deficits projected for the next several years. Now, we did reach out to the Vera Institute of Justice for a comment, asking what is the most responsible way to determine whether prison closures are necessary, and if so, what's the best way to work with the communities potentially impacted by a prison closure? And here is the written statement we received tonight. Decision makers should use data to drive prison closures. Given California's climate risk zones, data used to guide closures should be broad, holding town halls to give these communities a voice before deciding to close prisons gives a decision maker a broader view of the impact communities will face and guides where cost savings can be invested. That provides a lot of opportunities to invest a community's safety. Now, as we continue to look at cutting waste to balance the budget, and again, it's not like all of California's prisons are closing tomorrow. It is a proposal, okay? There is a new report showing that the budget problem could be worse than expected. The Legislative Analyst Office released its annual fiscal outlook for next year's budget that is based on current law and policy. And as I showed you earlier, a nearly $18 billion budget problem is expected, which is about $5 billion more than anticipated. This is not a surprising result, according to Senate Budget Committee Vice Chair Roger Niello. He says he's been pushing for more research to be done on the effectiveness of state programs.
And I've been calling for the last 3 years for the Department of Finance to do a in-depth analysis of ongoing programs to assess their effectiveness versus what was expected when they were started. And additionally, their sustainability, because there may be some that are effective, but their rate of growth is unsustainable, and we'd need to take a look at that. Until we take that hard look at the underlying data, we're going to continue to have that structural deficit, and it'll probably continue to grow.
Now, tomorrow night at 10, we'll hear more from the vice chair about his concerns for the budget going forward if things don't change. Now, there is a new statewide survey from the Public Policy Institute of California. It's painting a picture of how people are feeling about their financial future. So let's take a look. How do you feel about living in California? Well, 3 in 10 Californians say their household cut back on food to save, come on, baby, to save money this year. It also shows that 1 in 4, nearly, adults worry every single day about housing costs and debt. We've also got 7 in 10 Californians, when looking ahead, expect bad economic times for the state over the next year. The survey also shows strong support for policies aimed at boosting economic well-being, and that includes expanded public health insurance and more investment in job training. Also, researchers are saying that these concerns come as Californians continue to struggle with the nation's highest unemployment rate, 5.5%. There's a high cost of living, yes, uncertainty around federal policies for sure, and the impact of artificial intelligence on jobs, also main concerns. The University of California students may face higher tuition costs across the state. The UC Board of Regents approved a plan to renew tuition adjustments despite fierce opposition from students. The measure allows the UC system to increase undergraduate tuition by as much as 5% annually, depending on inflation, and locks in that rate for students enrolling that year up to 6 years, which means that current undergraduate students would see no change in tuition. Again, those going to a UC right now, no change in tuition. The increase comes as the university is managing layoffs and uncertainty over future funding from the state. Now, so does all of this far from bright news about our state make you think about maybe moving? Well, Californians of all ages are now moving for better opportunities. People all across the nation are actually increasingly relocating to the south, the dark green colors on this screen. Let's take a look at this map of the United States, and you see the low cost of living and warmer weather in states like Texas and Florida, even Arizona, are a significant draw. But let's see how many of those people are moving, or how many of those states are now having people move in more. Let's start with Nevada. You might not say that's a southern state, but certainly is the closest to California. Net migration inflow, 130,000 people moving into Nevada versus 89,000 moving out. Texas, really the biggest, with 556,000 people moving in. But do note, 483 people are moving out there. Florida, what about Florida? 573 people and 876 moving in, 506,000 moving out. And then finally, did we talk about Arizona? I forgot about poor Arizona. Inflow, 237,000 people moving in and only 179,000 moving out. California had the largest net loss, 254,000 people moving out, almost double that of the next ranking state where people are moving out, New York. We'd like to hear from you now. Are you considering leaving California? Scan the QR code you see on your screen or head to kmph.com/poll to add to your vote. By the way, we've got 74% of our viewers saying, yep, I am considering leaving California.